This is Update One, the podcast of the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. Update One provides a forum for listeners to learn about national and international stories, focusing on journalism and communication issues, news, and politics. Now, the latest edition of Update One.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Update One. This is Shannon Fisher, and today we're going to talk about the nonprofit news world and the struggle of independent newspapers to fund the vital local journalism that has been shrinking over the last decade. And our guest is Jason Alcorn. He is Vice President of Operations for the American Journalism Project, and he's also the Project Director with NewsMatch, an annual fundraising campaign that supports nonprofit newsrooms. And Jason is going to help shed some light on the role and status of nonprofit news. So, Jason, welcome.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
So just to start off, for anyone who might not know, what is a nonprofit newsroom?
A nonprofit newsroom is, often these are digital organizations, but these are news organizations who exist to serve the communities with kind of mission-driven journalism. And that does not mean that they're advocating. These are high-quality newsrooms. They win journalism awards. They do really, really good reporting, but they're set up in the public interest, and they have kind of the preferential status, tax status of being a nonprofit. And what that means is simply that the IRS has said that they're serving a public purpose, typically kind of related to educating the public around civic issues. So these are a lot of local news organizations that have started in the last 10 years. There are some national news organizations as well that do, for example, deep dive investigative journalism or really in-depth journalism on topics like education and the environment or criminal justice.
Sure. And they've been launching really quickly, launching at more than one a month for 12 years. And so why do you think that there are so many that have been popping up over the last decade?
Well, obviously we can know what happened in journalism starting about 10 years ago, where local, particularly commercial newspapers can began a financial crisis that has only accelerated. I think it's a twofold reason why you see that kind of growth. One is there's been a decline and a really sharp decline in the number of reporters covering issues that matter to kind of our democracy and matter to the health of the communities. And so there's a need. But we also have programs like NewsMatch, which make it easier for people to start these kinds of organizations and be successful pretty quickly because they have access to kind of the toolkits and the resources that say, here's how you get started. Here's how you go out and raise money to ask people to support this because it matters to them, because they need something like this in their community. So for people who want to do this kind of work in their community, there's now a roadmap and a really, really smart and friendly community of people really working across the country who are willing to help out as you get started and show you the path that they blazed originally starting about 10 years ago.
That's wonderful. And so you are the project director for NewsMatch, and NewsMatch is an annual gift matching campaign, and last year it raised over $7 million for nonprofit news organizations. And so the campaign is underway right now until December 31st, and I understand there are many foundations involved. So tell us what NewsMatch is and what it's doing right now.
Sure. So NewsMatch is a national matching gift campaign to promote giving to journalism during the end of the year, as you said. And what that means is that there are nearly 200 nonprofit newsrooms across the country who are participating this year. And donations to those newsrooms through December 31st will be matched by a national matching pool that some national funders, some individuals have all contributed to. So we're actually matching up to $20,000 per newsroom for 198 newsrooms, and I think in 42 states in the country right now. There's a handful that don't have nonprofit newsrooms yet, but almost every state in the country does. And on top of that, there's kind of a national campaign. So this year's campaign theme is "This News Can't Wait." And so in addition to the match, all these news organizations are participating in this national campaign and kind of saying with a single voice, journalism needs to be a core part of U.S. philanthropy, much more so than it has in the past. The way that we get the quality of especially local news that we need as communities is by going out and directly supporting it. And we invite the people, readers, listeners, to visit newsmatch.org and find a nonprofit newsroom in their community or on a topic that they care deeply about and make a gift, and we'll double the impact of that gift this year.
That is fantastic. And it really does seem like as revenues have been shrinking, local newspapers, national newspapers, as advertising dollars have dwindled away, the local aspect of being a watchdog really has dwindled. So with these nonprofit news organizations kind of acting as a local watchdog and or state or national watchdog, how do they ensure that they remain nonpartisan?
That's a really good question, and one that's really important. The really simple answer here is have a lot of individual donors. Mm-hmm. It's the trickiest thing, I think, for a news organization is if it's reliant on a single foundation or a single benefactor or a single advertiser for that matter in commercial news, that it becomes tricky as much as we all like to and really do believe that journalists are independent in their work. You run into tough situations when you have a lot of small dollar donors or a lot of mid-level donors who are supporting you for the work that you do and the value that you provide to the community. Mm-hmm. It becomes easier to remain independent and follow the news where it's going, and you end up being responsive to what the community as a whole and the entirety of the community is interested in, is looking for, is hoping that you provide as a service to the town or city or state that you live and work in.
That's great. It sounds like there are several large organizations that have partnered with NewsMatch to provide these matching donations. So tell me a little bit about those foundations.
Yeah, this year we have right now 8 national partners in the NewsMatch Fund, and then a number of supporting and even more local partners. So Knight Foundation, which created NewsMatch in 2016 and has since been joined by other funders, including Democracy Fund, the Jonathan Logan Family Foundation, Ethics and Excellence in Journalism Foundation, the Facebook Journalism Project. They're putting money into this national pool that provides these matches and then provides all of the wraparound coaching and support that really started back in June of this year to help organizations get ready for their year-end campaigns, get their kind of resources together, get their appeals and asks together for the national campaign. And that's the national funding pool. Every year, the number of national partners has grown, which is really, really exciting, including people who haven't kind of given to journalism before in the past. And then we have supporting partners. So, for example, this year we're working with REI Co-op, who came to us and incredibly generously offered to match an additional $10,000 in donations to local newsrooms who are doing really, really good coverage of outdoors and the environment. And how REI thinks about this is analogous to the other work that they do around like trail building. They think about local coverage of outdoors and the environment as the infrastructure that local communities need if they are to enjoy the outdoors, to enjoy the environment, to take care of that environment. So in the same way that REI is supporting local nonprofits that do trail building work, they're supporting 10 NewsMatch participants this year who are doing independent reporting on the outdoors and the environment. We have other partners who are supporting newsrooms doing education reporting, who are doing reporting on science and the environment, or we're doing reporting in particular states like Colorado or Pennsylvania.
And a lot of these local newsrooms are award-winning. I mean, they are receiving national and international recognition for the work that they're doing, covering these important stories. So for news consumers out there who were not really aware of nonprofit news or aware even that giving to journalism was a thing, how would they find the local organization that is providing a watchdog service for their community?
So if you go on NewsMatch, anyone can go on newsmatch.org and search by state or by topic area to find an organization around them that might be doing this work. The Institute for Nonprofit News also very recently published their best nonprofit news stories, or best stories by nonprofit newsrooms of 2019, which just has a really remarkable collection from kind of every corner of the country of enterprising, kind of brilliantly written and produced and reported stories that have made a real difference in communities, that have led to reform, that have led to higher quality of life for communities, that have even to the extent, for example, in Puerto Rico, it was a nonprofit newsroom that published some of the message logs that led to the governor's resignation there. So in small communities that can be around, so what's the development that's happening on the corner, and how did city council approve it? Did they do that in the right way? And then, at the state and national level, it is really consequential work that is making a big difference in who our elected officials are and how they behave.
Sure. And so beyond donations, how can citizens support the nonprofit news?
Well, I always start with donations, because that's what these organizations need to continue. They're not looking to advertisers. They're not looking to kind of national philanthropy. They're looking to their neighbors. They're looking to readers to step up and say, this matters to me, and I want it to continue. So that's the first part, even if it's a little bit. This year in NewsMatch, we're actually offering a deal where if someone becomes a monthly recurring donor to any of these organizations, the whole first-year value of that gift is matched. So if someone signs up at $5 a month, the organization actually gets $60 from NewsMatch so that they can plan their 2020 coverage as robustly as possible. But beyond that, I think it's reading, it's sharing, it's just understanding that this kind of journalism is a public good. That this is something that is much more analogous to maybe an arts organization or a music organization in town, or an organization that maintains the parks in a town or a community. And begin thinking about it that way. As you read these stories, as you read the news, pay attention to where you're getting the news, and look for those local sources. And if you're not able to financially support them right now, read them, share them, talk about the value of them with your friends and neighbors.
Absolutely. As you said, financial support is fundamental, because they need to be able to budget for travel expenses, for paying their reporters. And if you don't know how much money you're going to have for a year when you're planning your budget, you don't know what you're going to be able to cover, and you might miss out on the big story simply because you don't have the funding for it. So this is a podcast for the National Press Club, and we've got tons of reporters that are going to be listening. So for reporters that are kind of looking to have an impact and to really tell those stories, how can they get involved in the nonprofit newsroom?
One of the things that I really, really love about nonprofit news organizations is the role that they can serve as kind of collaborators with and conveners with other kinds of news organizations, whether they're for-profit or broadcast or other nonprofits or public media. So in a lot of places, you see nonprofit news organizations being the conveners of, for example, editorial collaborations, or working one-on-one with a commercial news organization that maybe has a great distribution but doesn't have all of the capacity to do some kind of data reporting, for example, or to do a longer, deep investigation, or to convene kind of a partnership among 8 or 10 different newsrooms. So that's one really interesting way. If you have a nonprofit newsroom in your community, the collaborations that happen between nonprofit and for-profit newsrooms end up being some of really the best work that gets done, I think, every year in journalism. And that's a really good place to start.
Excellent. Well, unfortunately, we're about out of time, but tell everyone again how they can get involved and how they can donate, where they can go, and the timing involved with NewsMatch.
Of course. Visit newsmatch.org, where you can find any of the 198 nonprofit news organizations who are participating in NewsMatch this year. And you can donate through newsmatch.org or directly on websites of any of those organizations. And between now and December 31st, your gift will be doubled, or in some cases even tripled by NewsMatch and our national and supporting partners. And we're just so deeply grateful. On Giving Tuesday this week, which is obviously the big charitable giving day of the year, which we turn into a Giving Newsday campaign. We really broke records for gifts on newsmatch.org. So I'm really excited about this year and so grateful for everyone who's helping us spread the word and contributing themselves to make this campaign the best ever.
That's wonderful, and thank you so much for all of the hard work that you are doing. Jason Alcorn, thanks so much for joining us today.
Lovely to be here. Thank you so much.
And for Update 1, this is Shannon Fisher. See you next time.
Update 1 is a production of the National Press Club's Broadcast Podcast Committee. You can comment on this podcast or any episode of Update 1 by sending an email to update1podcast, that's update the number 1 podcast @gmail.com. Thanks for listening to Update 1.